This first episode of the Shrimpcast is brought to you by G Luna Shrimp and Shrimp Insights. Okay.
Hey, Angel, you don't need permission for this from your bosses.
You know what? I'd rather ask for forgiveness.
I was fine with a bunch of drunks.
Don't be caught.
They
Don't
have
be caught.
to forgive me.
Do you have permission? I'm like, no.
Nothing's going on.
That's,
That wouldn't happen. The only difference is this is on camera. This is basically what we've done before.
Yeah,
Salud,
exactly.
my friends.
Cheers.
I have my Scotch tasting glass.
Mescal, sorry.
Great idea, Mr. Willem. And so, I guess I'll start. We'll start somehow.
Yeah.
The whole idea of the Shrimpcast is we're all shrimp crazy, and I think we all want to be a part of the shrimp world and are a part of the shrimp world, and study it and learn it and want it to become better and better every time.
Yeah.
And we also have a lot of fun though doing it. We love what we do. So that's how Three Amigos became the Shrimpcast.
Yeah.
Three Amigos. We initially we were joking. I was saying one Indian, one Mexican, and one Ecuadorian.
Yes. Yes.
I didn't see Willem. I didn't see Willem answer that text. He kind of let that one go, but we're allowed to bash each other. By the way, I'll send the recording afterward, and anybody wants to censor any part of it, you can censor absolutely any part of it. Completely
No
open.
worries. No worries.
All right. So cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Start
Cheers again. I only have mezcal, so I hope you forgive me.
Gabriel.
I'm doing Lafroig, and this idea of the tasting glass was just superb, Willem.
Much better, right?
Yep.
do you
so
have, Willem?
our Mexican friend cheated, and he did mezcal today, which is fine.
I to be honest, I could not go and get the bottles, so
Not all shrimp is Vaname. That's also okay. That's also okay, right?
and it's still good, right? Relatively
I
good.
mean,
It's still strong enough.
yeah, even though we may not want to admit it, we all enjoy those black tigers, right? And U12s or U15s or U6s and U8s.
Even though we are like crazy farm shrimp people, I am also like I like the Mexican wild, and the Gulf wild is excellent. So,
I have to
guys,
say yes. I would say Gulf Wild. That blue, what is it? What's do you know the name? The
Stili
Sorry.
Rostris, I think it's a Stili
Stili
Rostris. Yeah, but that's in the West Coast in Mexico. That's
Baja California, right?
yes, in the Gulf of the
Yeah.
Gulf of the
So
Sea of
that-
Cortez. Yeah.
That is really outrageous. That's some really
Yes.
cool. Like that's where it gets good.
We only have the
Sure.
North Sea shrimp, right? Like we have this very tiny North Sea shrimp. which
That's
they
also
send to-
excellent. Yeah.
They
It's
send
very
it to
sweet. Is that the
It's
sweet
very
one?
sweet. It's very tasty. But they
Yes.
send it to they cook it on board. Then they send it to Africa for peeling, and then they bring it back by truck to the Netherlands, right?
Wow.
Logistics.
Yes.
Logistics. Yeah. Yep.
But that's
Well-
also a pretty good shrimp, bro. I mean, I've only tasted that, and I tasted that in Norway at the Coldwater Shrimp Forum in 2 years ago, and I tasted that as a ceviche, and they had the other one, and
That's mostly with the small shrimp.
yeah, and it was excellent too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's excellent if they have like the best chefs too, right? So that's I think that sometimes it's just
It
cheating.
helps, right? It
The
helps.
people, that's what they do.
Shrimp, you can cook shrimp wrong; it still tastes good, man.
I agree.
All right, so I am Gabriel Luna. We're gonna introduce each other. I'm Gabriel Luna. I'm here with Willem and Angel. We got together to do this Shrimpcast. We of course want to have a lot of fun and talk about shrimp and hopefully go through some important information as well. We are gonna goof off 90% of it. So if you want to enjoy it, enjoy it. And if you I don't know, want to send us hate mail, we'll take that too.
but we don't tell you where to send it.
Yes,
You
there's
choose.
no email, so send it anywhere.
Good one. Good one.
Angel, do you want to go next or Willem?
I'm gonna.
Sure, I'll start. So I'm Angel Rubio. I've worked for Erna Berry for at least at this point 18 years, 19 years. I had a little spell at Thai Union, Chicken of the Sea Frozen Foods for a second, and then I'm now doing forecast. And by the way, I'm gonna be having one of the things that we're gonna have is gonna be shrimp. Is gonna be Vaname shrimp forecast by the end of this year. So that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, cool stuff.
Willem?
So I'm Willem van der Pel. I live in the Netherlands, in the cold place here. I've been, I think, the shortest of the three of us in shrimp for about 12 years. I once started in India, and you don't believe what I did. I tried to understand strategic behavior of Indian shrimp exporters, and actually, ever since, that is what I've been trying to repeat. So I'm a cultural anthropologist. I love to dive into shrimp. I've traveled all over the place and enjoy it every day. So I run my consultancy, Shrimp Insights. And besides that, I organize a Global Shrimp Forum. And together with Gabriel, I'll try to push this Global Shrimp Council a little bit forward.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great one. I mean, I think that's one of the stories of the year, right? I mean, this Global Shrimp Council has a lot of momentum, a lot of good vibes to it, a lot of companies jumping on board, and I think it's the right moment too. I think the industry needs a a fresh start in promoting itself. I think we
Can
gotta do
I
it.
can I ask you a little bit on that? Because I mean I'm actually very excited about what you guys have been doing, and kudos to both of you. But like hats off. Um, but the question, you're saying that the timing is right. Do you think that it might be like, sure, it came out of necessity, and please, Willem, talk about this too, because it comes out of necessity, but I think it's probably a little late. Cheers to that.
Yeah,
It's a little late, but it's
hello.
not
That's
too
the second one.
late, you know? So what do you think of that? I mean, is it late? Is it not late?
I think like people are trying to come up with something for a long time already, right? Like I think every time when there is a necessity, the topic comes back on the agenda, right? But so far, I think every time the effort failed because people were kind of stuck in the discussion on the shape it should have, right? So not so much on people didn't disagree that it was not needed to promote shrimp consumption, but people seem not to be able to find common ground on how then establish an organization to start doing it. Should it be voluntary? Should it be obligatory for all exporters or importers in a specific market? And I think that, at least from my point of view, when Gabriel approached me like for the first time speaking about this, and he told me that he was working together with this other Mexican guy, David Castro, to kind of pull this off, I was like, oh shit, these two guys, they seem to have kind of a different mindset, right? They have not been part of that previous discussion, and they are all in, right? So for me, that was like a very clear point that I realized, like, oh, wait, these guys are going to take a different approach. And that's why also I was very kind of from the start convinced that whoever could support them should support them, because like you can only get this done with a crazy amount of energy, right? Because it is a crazy job. It's such a fragmented industry. We have so many players all over the world and different people, Gabriel, right? Indians, Mexicans, Ecuadorians.
Trying to understand and respect every culture is the most difficult part.
Exactly.
Because we can feel that I am being respectful to you, but I don't know that I'm being disrespectful to you in some sort of way, in my attitude, in my action. So I think the most important part is the respect part. We have to be extremely careful how we say things, right? Sorry.
No, I think you're entirely right, Gabriel. Like bringing together, now we are with 50 companies, but maybe we end up with 300 companies, right? And all these people speak different languages, literally and figuratively, right? Like, how do we bridge those cultures, and how do we find that common ground where people respect each other, and where people can actually really get into that conversation about how to achieve this common goal? I guess, Angel, I'm diverting a bit, but you are right. Like it is late, right? Because we are competing with so many other proteins in the market, and it will not be an easy way to get there. But the momentum is there. The momentum is right.
No, for sure. And you know what? You know, the I mean, I don't want to say this is better than nothing, but at least, because what I'm saying is like this is this is definitely getting not only the momentum and the traction, but like it's getting the money. That's the most important part, right? And whenever when it becomes out of necessity, when everybody's like, you know what, here's the money, and it's not only coming from producers, it's coming from other parts. And if anything, because I was a little bit part of the business, but not fully in there, so you know, that this is where I think Gabriel can potentially like talk about. I would be asking the questions, right? Because I want to learn a little bit this, because you have the producer and then you have the sales arm of that company that markets that in the market, right? But we never really reach the consumer. It's always like a B2B business. And aside from the fragmented thing that you mentioned, Willem, it's not only fragmented within those stages, but it's also fragmented, you know, passing those stages. Uh, uh, because the consumer doesn't know, doesn't care, but who promotes that? Who's really in charge of educating the consumer? And God damn it, like that's a hard task, man.
Absolutely. So let me take that. There's three things that I wrote down on my notes, right? So I said the first thing is you were talking about it's really actually late. And wait, salute. This is very important. We agreed that this was going to be a drinking game, and it was going to be an enjoying game. So it's going to be a drinking and enjoying game. We're going to make this fun,
Yeah,
and we're going to crack up while we do this. And it's okay. If you want to listen to it, it's okay. Go home and listen to it. Have a drink while you listen to it. We did.
exactly, exactly.
Exactly. So is it late? Is it late for the Global Shrimp Council? Yes, it would have been better that it worked the first time around in 2016 or 17. Why didn't it work in the past? Because it started in the wrong hands. It started in the wrong moment. What was the wrong moment? In the shrimp time, in the market time back in 2016, shrimp farmers and shrimp harvesters and shrimp boats and everybody was profitable. So when you're profitable, you tell a guy, listen, I know you're profitable, but you need to give us some money to invest in growing demand. And they're going to answer, demand is off the hook. We don't have enough shrimp for the calls we get, right? So that's what happened. The importers got together and they said, okay, we're going to pass the hat around the importers. And the importers said, okay, we'll chip in with some money. Sounds fair, but really, who's going to take the most benefit is the growing production of the world. So production in the world is the one that needs to put up more money. When they knocked on those doors back then in 2015, 16, 17, nobody answered. It was just a hollow knock, right? And that's what's different this time around. This one is producer oriented. It comes at a time where they are having trouble with numbers. I don't want to say they're losing money or not. They're not as profitable as they used to be, right? And yes, there are very efficient farmers that are very profitable or that are profitable to a certain point. There is a lot of shakeup in the industry because a lot of these farmers are old school farmers and they don't handle their finances like a company does. They don't they don't set aside money for the rainy days. Um, if one year they have a lot of money, they change the car, they change the helicopter, they they go to the moon. I don't know what they do with the money, but they have a good year and they spend it. So when it's a bad year, now they understand it. Now they're getting the call and they said, listen, we're all going through this trouble together. How about we get together and fix this by teaching the consumer the benefits of healthy shrimp around the world. And I don't care if it's wild, if it's Gulf caught, if it comes from a farm in India, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, What is the other guy's? The guy with Naqua. Where's that? Arabia
Oh
Saudi,
yeah.
Saudi
So
Arabia, right? And then you have Mexico, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, Panama, Venezuela, Ecuador, Colombia, and Peru doing shrimp, and the Brazilians that do it for themselves because they're in their own bubble, but they still good shrimp producers. Plus, we have all the Americans producing shrimp. We got guys doing closed containers, recirculation kind of
Oh
deals.
yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so there's a lot of that producer oriented right now, and it is it is working so far because it's producer oriented. So when I say it's the right time, it's the right time for their pockets.
But then also, like that's, I think that's really right. And I think on top of that, what is really cool is that previously people were, when you had these conversations, I was part of some of these conversations at some conferences, and people were talking about the free rider effect, right? People said like, hey, but if it's not an obligation to be part of it, then I'm going to pay, but my neighbor is not going to pay. And that
Oh
kind
yeah.
of stopped, that stopped the whole conversation, right? Because if you got stuck in that, then there's nothing left to talk about, because that way to get into a format where it's actually obligatory for every supplier to the US market in this case, it may take up to 5 years, if not longer, right? And it takes a lot of money because you need lawyers, you need a lot of bureaucratic processes to be managed, etc. So the fact that now we have a group of companies, leaders of the industry, right? These are not small players. We have the biggest players of the industry with us. And they say, we don't care. This now needs to happen, and we are going to make the first step. And that signal, it will make that. I'm very sure that in 2-3 years from here, once we have agreed on the financing mechanism and the companies are really on board with that, it's going to fly. And eventually, it might become obligatory, right? In parallel to this voluntary road, there might be a pathway towards such a route where in the end the whole industry will be part of it, right? But it will take time, and why wait for that if we can be so successful in the meanwhile for the better of the industry and all the farmers that depend on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wrote on my notebook here is that you mentioned consumer oriented publicity. You
Yeah.
mentioned consumer, right? How we got to change, and that's, I think, I was invited to the Intrafish Leadership Breakfast this year in Boston, and one of the main topics was, guys, we've been talking to the consumer wrong. We're talking to the consumer like he works in the shrimp industry, like he works.
Yes.
So we're telling the
Or
consumer
not talking to
this,
the consumer at all. Like
or,
that's the thing. Yeah.
or we're saying, no, this is such and such certified. The
Yeah.
consumer knows such and such. It could be certified by Elon Musk, and he wouldn't care. I mean, the consumer would be like, maybe it would make more sense to say this is Elon Musk certified.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would make maybe more sense than what we are actually trying to get across to the consumer. So this time around, we hired a guy who has been talking to consumers for years. He was the guy, and I always use this example. He was the guy that was selling Pepsi, Coke to kids and having parents pay for it, right?
Jesus Christ.
That's the guy you want on your campaign. I mean, I buy anything that comes up in an Instagram or an Amazon link or an email. I'll
But
buy
not
it.
Pepsi or Coke anymore, right? Like we have to like
Try to stay away from that unhealthy things. Not saying I don't have a Pepsi or a Coke every now and then. Probably have more than I should, right? Um, I do.
salute to that.
Salud.
Salute to that.
That's see, the important part is we keep on drinking because this just gets funnier and better every minute,
Yeah.
right? So that's the third part I had written down, and the free rider effect that you were talking about, Willem, that has always brought it down. But this time, the big players are willing to let the free riders up on board.
Like it will be organically
Yeah,
like
accepted. Listen,
that.
you don't want to be in. Okay, you're all in, but you guys have to be a part of it. We want this because it's gonna bring more people into the stores.
And I think it will work the same way, like geographically, right? We are going to start in the US, so now we work mainly with suppliers that are really big in the US, but also US importers are starting to get engaged. But imagine that if the Europeans see how successful such a campaign can be in the US, I'm pretty sure that the European importers will be waiting for the Global Shrimp Council to also start in Europe, right? And so this is, I think, like the main challenge now is to get the ball rolling. We have our first board, Gabriel. We are going to meet in person with them in Barcelona, and that will be a very big thing for all of us, I guess. And I hope that from there, like once these guys and ladies start to agree with each other and start to trust each other, and the ball starts really rolling, I'm pretty sure that the ball will roll faster and faster. Yeah.
I mean, can I just bring something along these lines? Because we're going to start in the US, and so these are not official numbers by the NMFS or anything like that, but I come up with my own per capita consumption based on estimated inventories, because that's, remember, it's a frozen product for the most part.
Wait, so your numbers, do your numbers include all shrimp categories?
Yes, it includes all shrimp. I try to do an aggregate of everything, right? And it doesn't matter, like even from a statistical point, that really doesn't make a difference, because over 90%, I mean, I think 95 something percent is frozen and imported. Yeah, right. But not imported. I think the imported comes to like 90, something like that. That there's like 10% that come from south and whatnot. But statistically speaking, just assume that all that. But I do take Gulf production into consideration. So I do take whatever the US produces. And it went down considerably. Like 2023 is about 5.2 pounds per capita. That's down from 5.8. So that's you lost 0.6 from 2021 to
Yeah, wait a second.
Yes.
How do you get to that number?
Official numbers, right?
Huh?
That's much lower than numbers that you would normally hear from other sources in the US, right?
No, the NMFS is around 5.8 pounds per capita.
Okay.
Pounds, yeah, but pounds. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess like
pounds. We speak kilos, right? So I'm
sorry.
catching up.
What is the 2.2 kilos or 2.4 kilos that ChatGPT has for us?
Correct. Yes. So like I don't know. Let me
Okay,
put
so
it into kilos.
How do you get to that? How do you get to that calculation? Are you taking all of the imported shrimp plus the local production and just dividing by the population?
No. I actually so essentially yes, but you have to estimate for inventories, right? So you have to like come up with a number that you would have as like a rate of sale, like a monthly rate of sale, right? Because you have like X amount of imports, right? So you have, what is it, like 1.6 billion pounds of imports, something like that. So 1.7, give or take. And yes, the population. So you want to take that into consideration. And so it's like production, domestic production. You add imports, you subtract exports, you subtract estimated inventories. There are no numbers of inventories. If we can, with this effort of the council, if we can talk to the cold storage houses to potentially provide like an aggregate number, that would be really good. I mean, hey, data is going to be super important for whoever's going to be promoting it, and the more we can get.
Why am I? And I'm putting you. I'm trying to grill you a little bit. Is because in my mind, and I could be wrong, right? But we had a 2022 that was huge. Okay.
Yep.
In imports, and it was a good consumption year.
Yep.
But towards the end, when all of the restaurants opened up and the government said, you know what, I don't want to say screw COVID on the podcast, but everybody said screw COVID kind of, and they said, go out and have fun.
2021?
2022. By
2022.
2022. 2021 in the States, everybody was free. But then 2022, the rest of the world kind of said, you know what, COVID's over, right? But all of this brings a lot of tourists and a lot of movement to the US, because the US is, the tourism business is very, very big. What I think, November or October 2022, all of the sales moved from retail to restaurants again. So retail was sitting on great sales for the entire year. And all of a sudden, come October or maybe September, their sale took a dive, right? And when their sale took a dive, they go to the importers who hold their product, and they tell them, listen, guys, our rate of sale, which is what you were talking about, our rate of sale just went to nothing. or is
Yeah.
nothing compared to what it was. I'm very worried, and I'm to hold shrimp. Don't order anymore for the next X amount of time. And they were talking 6 to 8 or 10 months of not ordering new shrimp, right? You and I know shrimp can hold in storage for at least 24 months. And if you test it on month 20 or something, you can get it extended for 36 months, right? So they were holding on a lot of inventory. What I don't think consumption per capita went down. I
In,
I
when in
I argue that
2023 or in 2022?
in 2023, I'm arguing that it didn't go down um, per capita, but that they ate what was stored, overstored in 2022. So you don't see it on the imports, right? And it's going to affect your number greatly.
So
But
you say that
with
2022 was, you basically say that 2022 was inflated, Gabriel.
Yeah. So kind of like what happened in the whole seafood industry in 2020 and 2021, that everybody saw an increase in sales. People were talking 45, 50% increased sales in retail. And now
Right.
the retailers are looking at each other very sad and saying, you know what? That 50%, we've lost market. No, you haven't. You just gained 50% market on 1 year. You had been in the past gaining 8 to 15%.
Right. Yes.
You just got a very big boost thanks to COVID and because the restaurants, which is a
Right.
very big outlet, restaurants, bar, we are the restaurant, bar, and hotel item, right? We are the travel item. You're traveling, you go out with dinner with friends, and you say, well, you know what, let's order an appetizer. Nobody has an appetizer of meat. You don't order a ribeye for an appetizer. You order shrimp. When you are
Right.
not needing to order that shrimp, people that affected it. People went to retail because they needed their fair share of shrimp. Plus, they were tired of what dad was cooking. My kids didn't want to see me on the grill anymore. Before COVID, it was like, Daddy's on the grill. Whoa, we have grilled it tonight, right?
Yeah.
During COVID, it was every 3 days. My wife would look at me and said, "You know what? I've been cooking for 3 days. It's time for you to grill something up." Well, I got one recipe. I can go about it as many ways as you want, but I can go to that one recipe. So the kids got tired of it really quick. So
I
that's
also
how.
have to. I also have. I mean, and to add to some of that. I mean, I'll come back to that. I do think that consumption per capita definitely came back in 2023, to compared to 2020, 2021 and 2022. But even at 5.2, it's still considerably higher than 2020 and what we were seeing prior to the pandemic. So like considerably higher, right? So it's trying to, if you see like its organic growth is basically coming to that organic growth where it should have been everything else equal, right? So but yes, I can see that they're probably eating some of those inventories, and if anything 2022 and 2023 could have been inflated for because of the amount of influx of all those imports.
Like if we speak about inventory, Angel, do you have any clue like what could be the inventory volume in the US? Like are we speaking
Yeah,
about 100,000 tons? Are we speaking about 500,000 tons? Like what are we speaking about?
yeah,
I have no clue. I don't know the US in that way, but can you help me like to
yeah.
imagine like how many pallets of shrimp are there in the cold store, right? Like
So here it is. I have some of these numbers. So for example, if we were gonna go maybe to about, if we were thinking on January an inventory, I would say that at any given time,
You're talking January 2024.
2024, yeah, right now, if we were thinking on this right now, I would say this number can be a little like tricky, right? Because even in pounds, I think that the pounds could be a little deceiving, right? But given
But
imports and all
if you
that,
give us a ballpark, that'll be better than our no clue.
I
Because
exactly.
would
if somebody
I would
asks me,
say about
my
right
answer is
now,
no
I have
clue.
a number. In fact, I have a number for February, which is an estimate of the last. So the assumption here is that rotationally, and Gabriel, you also are in this business, but rotationally, you want to keep at least somewhere between, I would say you want to keep a minimum of like 18 weeks of inventory, something along those lines. So the 18, 20 weeks of inventory, uh, or like at a minimum, like ideally, sure, it would be nice to have a little bit less if you can secure the
Source.
rotation.
Yeah.
The source, exactly.
Failed you. And then nobody hijacks a Maersk container down in somewhere in the middle of the something sea, or nobody drives the boat into the canal of Suez Canal.
Yeah.
Or a bridge.
Or it doesn't freaking rain in Panama because these things are just normal.
Yeah. Yep.
Now it doesn't rain in Panama, and people have to put it on the
Yeah.
train to
Good
create
point,
it
though.
Panama Canal. So
Joking
yeah,
aside, but yeah, I mean, joking in and joking aside, yeah.
if COVID taught us something is we're all in consulting, right? Because we all do consulting. We all get calls and say, guys, we want to hear your experience. We know you have experience in shrimp, right? But I was in boards since 2014 all the way to 2000 to right now. But when I was in boards and there was one particular board in Peru, and in a big company, and the guy, smart people, just the guy says, what's the highest, what's the most ridiculous risk you can think of, right? And I was only thinking white spot. I mean, white spot, green spot, yellow spot, right? God knows what can happen. I was thinking disease wise. Um, I didn't say COVID. I didn't say world pandemic. It had never. We hadn't seen a world pandemic in how many years? In 100 years. My generation had no clue that kind of thing existed. I'm guessing the Chinese have some idea that these things exist because I've seen them wearing masks in my 40 years of age, 42 years of age. I've seen them wearing masks in the past. So I'm guessing they know something we don't.
Yeah.
But we didn't know jack about this stuff.
Conspiracy.
Right. I mean, but that's not the shrimp cast. That's gotta be
The
like
bat.
that's yeah. So yeah, I mean, how can we accommodate for 18 weeks of inventory? But sorry, I interrupted. Very
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
No, that's
trying to
that's
wait
about.
for Aguilar answer.
So it's about right now. I have around 777, about 770 million pounds of inventory, give or take.
770 million pounds. That is...
Okay, wait a second. That means that your current holding inventory is half of your imports in a year.
Exactly.
So it is no. If you look at it, so your imports are 1.7, right? So it's like a third, about like so like
Eight
Like 350.
777 rounds to 800, buddy. So
380, 380.
350,000 metric tons. So that's about
Yes, sir.
1/3 of imports.
Yeah, like about 1/3. Yeah, so about 1/3.
In inventory.
Yeah.
That's great because imagine, like, that's the US, right? But in India, you have like so like my backyard is India, right? Your front yard is Ecuador, Gabriel, right?
Yeah.
And yours is the US, Angel, right? Like, but in India you have like probably 250 to 350 factories. Say that those factories on average have 500 to 1,000 tons, maybe even 2,000 tons of cold storage capacity. Imagine how much product they can hold in cold storage at times of oversupply, right?
At source. At source.
At source. Exactly, at source. Imagine what that means. Like, people are wondering, like, what's happening in India, right? Like, how can it be that all the signals from the field our production is going down? But how can it be that exports seem to be increasing, right? In January, again, it's more than a 10% increase year on year again, right? Like how those figures don't match, but that's like inventory level. Also within the country at origin, it's kind of so crucial for all of us, right? For every analyst to get a better view on that. Like, Gabriel, how is that in Ecuador? Like do Ecuadorian packers, like, do you have cold storage, or is it less than in India?
That's the whole thing. I mean, you're talking 2,000 is for 2,000 tons, right? And I'm gonna go back and forth on tons and pounds, just for kicks and because I'm drinking. Okay, I don't care what you guys are doing because I've been drinking more than you, and you guys got to speed it up. You're talking too many numbers. So let's say 2,000 tons is about 100 containers. 100 times 20 tons container, right? 100 containers, 4 million pounds, right? I don't think that yes, we have certain companies that are the biggest that can hold over 4 million pounds. Maybe they can hold 15 to 20 million pounds, the very largest, 2 or 3. That's it.
But not exactly. This is why like Ecuadorian companies need to continue shipping, right, and put it on the water.
We have a immense pressure on getting it out of Ecuador. We have no holding capacity, but it's not holding capacity. The business in Ecuador is the shipping. So the producing business is one thing, the packing business is another thing. But the shipper, the farmer, wants to get paid the minute he harvests. He's waiting for that cash flow. He needs that money. He doesn't want to hear your excuse. Hey, my shrimp's going to China. That takes 45 days.
Yeah.
Until 45 days, I can't pay you. He won't sell you the shrimp. He needs to be paid something tomorrow, maybe 30, 40%. And then in the next 20 days, the rest of it, or he will have a hard time.
Who is paying in Ecuador? It's the factory owner that's paying the farmer, right?
So we have a few things. We have several big factories that have their own pockets and they can do this and they can pay, and that's called cash flow, right?
Yeah.
You have growing companies that have become that are great administrators of the packing plant business, okay, and they have been able to be profitable in the past years. And the packing plant business, people tell me, oh, the packing plants make all the money, right? Because I talk to a lot of farmers. So the farmer thinks the packing plant makes a lot of money. The farmer, the packing plant is sure that the farmer is the one making the money, right? And we're all sure that the importers are making the money, right?
Yeah.
Because the grass always looks greener on the other side of the fence, right?
Yeah.
So, but the big guys that have their cash flow, okay, they can use it. The rest is actually financed by factoring companies. It's amazing.
Exactly.
You wouldn't imagine that the cash flow of this whole Ecuadorian operation, I would say 65% of it is coming from 65% of the business that goes to China. That's not 65% of the whole operation. That cash flow comes from factoring operations, usually companies in the States that are factoring and buying the invoices and paying the discounted price.
But they are separated. Like essentially, they're not necessarily or it's like a handshake.
They do factoring for bananas. They do factoring for Ecuador, Colombia, Chile, Peru.
Right.
Fresh fruits, of fresh items, agriculture, aquaculture.
But in India, it's also not the processor who's paying the shrimp, right? There's a middleman between the processor and the farmer. You have 100,000 small farms, right? So you have the middleman that pay cash to the farmer, or with a small delay, maybe 6 days, 9 days, 12 days, whatever. And then the packer is buying from that middleman at a 30, 60, 90-day payment term, right? So in the end, it's like the capacity to hold is very different, right?
So they're super well capitalized.
The cold storage capacity is like a hard nut to crack, right? To really understand these trade flows and the dynamics.
Very interesting.
Now that you're saying that the middleman, that middleman is the one that's holding the cash flow.
The cash,
Yes.
That's his business.
They are the big guys, right? They are the financiers.
Absolutely.
They're hedging, right? That's
yeah. And they might not even have a farm. Their business is a completely financial business. Nothing to do with farming. Could very well be it, right?
Well, that's they can have a lot of that cash sitting in treasury bills, paying 5% a year, and of course they can finance that risk free.
Wait, I think we lost Willem. Willem, you look too frozen, man. What's going on with you?
Oh no!
Let's make fun of Willem Frozen.
Yeah.
Can we throw something at him? Hey, I don't see you drinking, man. What's going on?
No, I'm definitely drinking. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's not working hours. But look, I have this mezcal, delicious. It's smoky. It's close to Laphroaig. It's not as smoky as Laphroaig, but
mezcal is smoky.
Yes, mezcal is very smoky. That's why I was like, okay, what's a good substitute? So I went with that. And it's crazy. I like that you said
Laphroaig. How you doing?
Woo!
Cheers.
Cheers, salud, salud.
Oh,
Hey,
he's in the
hey,
Netherlands, and the internet in the Netherlands,
you
not,
know,
it's
the
yeah,
internet doesn't
Oh,
work
it's a
over
third
there.
world country nowadays, man. It's terrible.
developing
Is
country,
there, is
developing.
there a flood coming your way? Watch out for the floods, man.
I know.
Well, you know, it's actually closer to getting flooded here. There's a lot of rain here.
We're here too. Yeah, it's oh, it's probably the same store that's hitting you is hitting us over here. I don't know.
So, Willem, how's that? This is
Yeah.
very serious. How is Ardbeg compared to? It's one of my favorite drinks as well. So
It's
I
in
think
the
that's
same league. It's in the same league as Lafroig, right? It's very peaty.
very meaty.
So after this, you can't drink anything else, right? Like your
Yeah.
taste buds will be neutral,
Yeah.
neutralized.
No, and they last like that for the entire night. I wake up the next morning like I had a secret.
Oh no.
Exactly. It's
Swear to
so
God, I mean,
smoky.
I
Yeah.
stopped smoking 5 or 6 months ago, and every time I drink this, I wake up and I'm like, did I smoke last night? I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember. I have to go and ask my wife, wife, did you see me with the smoke at night? And she said, no, no, I haven't smoked for 6 months. Right, right. It must have been that.
So like if you have a lighter and you have a drink, you can like throw a flame with it.
Phantom smoke. It's a
Yes.
phantom cigarette. It's like, ooh, I only smoke when I'm having a drink. So guys, bear with me, right?
Oh yeah, remember.
I'm not gonna smoke. I'm not smoking anymore. Um, but yeah,
Good job.
right.
I'm proud of you. Proud of you.
Thank you, thank you. Well, I got one friend of the family got a big scare, so that's when I said, you know what? If she does all the healthy stuff and she got sick, right? I don't want to know what can happen to me. I drink, I smoke, I don't eat properly, I exercise somewhat, but yeah.
You
So
still
okay,
look good.
let's go back to inventory. 777 million pounds of
That's
inventory in
crazy.
January
It was
in the
50,000
US.
tons.
50%,
Yeah.
50% of the total imports. Big number,
No,
right?
no. We agreed it was about 30%. Give or take between 30. It can be a little
35.
more.
Yeah.
They're not gonna. So if you do 1.7, divide by 0.7, it's more in the 40s number.
Yeah, but then you add like domestic production.
Domestic production brings it down. Correct. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We'll go back to 30. I'll take your 30 for 35. We'll meet on
So
35.
something along those lines. Yeah.
Okay,
But
we'll meet on
that's right
35.
now, give or take. I mean, it's yeah.
Yeah, it could vary. I mean, how do you know what's in inventory? He's got to trust.
Well,
It's one of those things that you kind of like, check the wind, see wind's going
well,
that way.
there's nothing to check it against, so I don't know whether what the real number is. This is where that's where I get a lot of hate mail talking about like all this.
Hail.
Well, I'm gonna get more hate mail now. Thanks a lot, Gabriela. Thanks for asking, Willem.
Sorry. Sorry. Sorry about that.
Hey, Gavin, so how was the start of the year in Ecuador? Like what how did the year kick off?
Okay,
Let's not talk duties, right? Let's forget duties for now. Let's just talk how did
Yeah.
production
For all-
what happened?
for all legal purposes, and for all, we don't want to have that lawsuits, and we don't want to have that hate email just growing. So we're not going to talk anything duty. We love everyone, and right. Let's just talk production. What happened last year? Last year we ended with like about 18% more production than previous year. The total production last year 1.47 something million metric tons. Okay, so record of records, very healthy production, very sustainable production. We're all happy about that production, but of course it comes at a cost, right? That's just, you can't grow like that and expect there to be a higher price on top of it. What happened in the last few months, prices were weak, and in January and February we have seen a decrease. And I did a new number. I did an average of the last 12 months, January through December, and the first average of January and February. And average versus average, 11% down, guys. That's a completely new number. I had never done that number. I do charts all the time, and I do a bunch of charts, and I show them off to everybody. But 11% down from last year's average to this year's average. So yes, there is, I call it demotivation, right? Farmers are not motivated, of course, by prices and by the current situation, to continue to grow or develop or technify. Because Ecuador's growth, remember, it was growing because we were technifying. People think, oh, so how many new farms have you built? It's not about building. In our case, the growth has not been building farms. It has been technifying farms that were already there.
But are you saying that technifying farms brings up the production costs?
No, it brings lower the production costs.
Exactly.
Right. So, but the prices have been coming down and down and down as we have been bringing them up and up and up. Right. And I don't know if I want to show a graph. Do we want to show a graph of
Yeah.
For
sure.
We want to share some of the love, right? Why not?
One amongst nerds. Why not, right?
Yeah, we can do this. We work and make the graphs. We already made the graph. Why not? So let me open my PowerPoint.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because I know you have like a margin estimate, and that has been like super important. And I think at the Global Shrimp Forum, there was a Chinese speaker who also was talking about like what's the cost of production relative to like the price and so on.
Yeah.
But I want to see the chart. I want to see the chart that Gabriel's gonna share for sure.
All right, so let me share. Gonna share the love here. Here we go. One of the things I'm not gonna share that. I'm not gonna go through the whole production. People, don't get scared when you see the starting screen. This is I do this monthly, right? I have a subscription.
Yeah.
It's a subscription-based service. People subscribe to it and get all of the insights on Ecuador production and statistics and where we export. So the info I was talking about, this is did I say 11? I said 11, right?
Yes.
This is that good scotch, because I remembered that 11%. So average 2023 and 2024, 11% down. If I was drinking the bad scotch, I couldn't hit the numbers. I start to miss the numbers. And then this is year to date, January and February. There's only 2 months in, but you have less 4% production, right? So what's more important to me is the minus 11% of the average. Of course, we've had very low months, but we've had months that look much lower than the previous years. Let me see if I can.
But seasonally, also February is probably like the lowest, right? Well, also the exports.
So this is the Ecuador monthly exports, right? And this is the yellow is last year.
There's no seasonality there.
I mean, we just got a lot of shrimp, and holy crap, a lot more shrimp. That's the two. We got 2 seasons. We have a lot of shrimp, and holy crap, a lot more shrimp. Then we have 2024 started off, and we are clearly below 2023. We're falling behind. Will March be as cool as March of last year? There's no possible way. There's no way. We are definitely in a slowdown. I want to say, and I have been saying for a long time, slowdown of the growth of Ecuador, right? But I'm not sure I was right. I think yes, the growth of Ecuador has stopped, but we will see a decrease in the amount of pounds this year.
But it's interesting, Gabriel, because the same happened in India, right? Like, if you look from 2020 to 2021, it was a record year, right? Like it was a huge jump due to COVID and everything related to that, right? Then 21 to 2022, you saw a correction because Ecuador was jumping up and India was suffering because of reduced demand in the US, etc. And then suddenly last year, everyone said 15%, 20%. In the beginning of the year, people even said maybe 25, 30% down, right? But last year, in the end, India exported 4% more. So 21 to 2022 was a correction year. Then 2023, actually, it went back up. And actually now, so I can let me share my screen. Maybe
Yeah, I already opened it up. You can share.
I can show you the
I have a little bit
two.
of water because that scotch is getting up on me.
I'll not open the graphs because it will take
I
me
don't know
time.
how
But
this is
anyway,
gonna end. We're
did
gonna
you
have to
see
do
that
Barry's.
in January?
I know this is episode 1. We're gonna have to do like 10 episodes out of one conversation, guys. We just ruined the whole programming of this.
So
Sorry
so,
about that.
2024 actually starts again with a 10% increase in exports in January, right? So this is crazy. So what's happening in
In
India is
India.
like in India, yes. And I think the most interesting part is actually that in India, like people say, like you have the resurgence of black tiger farming, right? So what's happening that in the specific pockets in the south of Andhra Pradesh and in Gujarat, you see this transition where farmers could not make a margin anymore on Vaname, so they shifted to monodon. It's in high salinity water. But the big bulk of production in India is produced in central Andhra Pradesh, right? And what's happening there is that while some of the pockets more to the north and to the north and further to the south, they are changing species. In this middle pocket, where probably 70% of production happens, the farms are going inland. So you see a lot of fish farmers, rice farmers that are slowly transitioning to vaname. So every loss of production due to disease or due to switching species is
It's popping up
actually
somewhere else.
replaced by the new farms that are going
Right.
further inland, right? And this is, I think, in India, it's time after time the case, right? Like it's such a huge country, right, compared to Ecuador also. So it's so hard to follow exactly what's happening where. So yeah, I think in India we'll see this year, contrary to Gabriel, what you say about Ecuador, I think you'll see an increase in volume actually, and it will be a better mix of species, right? So it will be monodon is growing rapidly. It will be more monodon, but also vaname. Like even though people expect a decline, I think it's not going to happen.
So you're saying production is going to go up in India, even though we are not having the best price years, right? But there are still people who want to get into the shrimp farming business, and there's new guys coming around, and there's guys who are trying new production systems that actually work and are very efficient.
And this is and the main that's again like one of the main differences between Ecuador and India, right? Like in Ecuador, like farms are big, right? Even small farms are relatively big, right? So in India, a small guy with a couple of ponds, yes, he might have lost a lot of money. He might not be able to stop production, but the land was not his, right? He was leasing the land. He was leasing the ponds. So he leaves his lease contract.
Somebody else.
He might be indebted, right? He might be indebted, and he might have a very tough time with his family, which is very
Sad and realistic.
It's a tragedy, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the advantage is that next week someone else can restart production, right? They take the lease and they start producing again, and that's what I think what we see happening in India, right? Like, yes, farmers lose money, but if one farmer leaves, another one still has money in the pocket and will start production, right? And this makes again such a different scenario, right?
Absolutely. And I'm sure it's very different from Vietnam. It's very different from whatever we hear from China. It's very different from
China.
every single country. People have to understand it has a different reality in the way they produce and export shrimp. The chain value, the supply value chain is completely different in every single country. But is that lease from a private owned? Who owns that land? Private
It's
owned.
landowners, right? Like in India, also like many of the big exporters, they have a history as landowners, right? They often come from an agricultural background. They might own big pieces of land, and they lease that out, right? And that's the whole model of the Indian agricultural landscape. There's also government-owned land, depending on the state. It might be bigger parts of land or smaller parts. But a government lease is much more demanding, right? If you lease from the government, you have all the permits that you have to comply with. If you have a private lease, it's normally smaller parts of land, but it's easier, right? It doesn't take this whole process of getting the permits, etc.
So but what's the incentive though? Then I think at the end of the day, and I don't want to like simplify something that is interesting and complex, like you're saying, but what's the incentive right now when prices remained low, and
But
it's
I think, and I'm not sure about Ecuador, but I think it's the same. If you are a successful farmer, right? If you know what you do, if you control disease, and that's especially in Asia, right? If you control disease, if you can manage a crop without disease affecting your productivity, you can still make money, considerable money, right? The problem is that most farmers cannot control disease, and disease has a huge impact on the production cost, right? It's the biggest impact.
sure.
Um,
What about
so
feed?
yeah, so yeah, but feed, like disease is still having the impact, right? Because if you have disease, the shrimp eats more, for example, but doesn't grow, uh, then it's in the end disease is the cause of a higher feed cost, right? So
Sure.
everything starts and ends with having a healthy crop.
So can we say that in India, as well as in Ecuador, 50 to 55 or 60% of the cost is feed?
I think so. I think so. It might even be more, right? It might even be.
It could be 65, correct. There's some farms that are 65. And and there's a lot that goes into making feed. I mean, people don't understand it, people don't know it, but there's a lot of research, development, certifications, and yes,
Yeah.
they're a touchy subject, but there's a lot that goes in. I mean, I think that the industry has awesome players, and I use the word awesome. I don't say good players. Awesome players. I think the industry has superb guys. There is always the intention of research, development, and growing the industry and making uh, shrimp in a more sustainable. When we learn that, hey, wait, if you change this, it will become more sustainable. We're always looking for that edge because to each other we talk about in that language, right? Not to the consumer. The consumer, when I talk sustainability, I don't know if they understand what we're talking about. But we're in seafood. We talk to each other. We say sustainable, right? What caught me into the shrimp business, and this is why I took it this way, is I'm going to ask you how you all got into shrimp or how you all got into what you do, okay? But what got me into shrimp is that I honestly, sincerely believe that shrimp is sustainable and that in the case of a catastrophe, shrimp could feed the world. It's a protein that could be reproduced enough to feed the world. And I know I'm exaggerating, but I honestly believe shrimp is sustainable. People don't know. I was in a lunch meeting yesterday with a guy who's very enthusiastic about the shrimp industry, and he's getting into retail sales, and he's also thinking about some local production in the States. Um, and when I sat with him, he said, "Well, you know why we call it a sustainable industry?" And he said, "Well, because you take care of the water and you recirculate and you make sure that the water output is clean water." I said, "Forget about all that. One female shrimp can have 250,000 eggs in less than 12 hours since the moment that they copulated, right? So one female shrimp can have 250,000 eggs. Do you need another explanation? And in 5 days more, that female shrimp is ready to go again. So do you really need us to explain more than that how this could easily become the most sustainable, healthy, low carb, high protein, low fat,
High nutritious. Yeah, like it's very nutritious. It's
and
high
then
value. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, it's a crazy healthy food. That's why the Chinese love it so much, and that's why they eat it so much.
And it's
Oh,
affordable. Like that's the thing. I think it's just marketed differently. Like it's if you market it here in the U.S., you're selling that stuff for like 7.99, 8.99 at the lowest end, which is so much more expensive than any other protein. If it can be more affordable, people will jump on that and probably bring it to like their diet, like a common diet,
yeah.
like salmon. I mean, even
I,
uh,
I, I want to add something there because now that we're in the Global Shrimp Council and we talk marketing and we have these meetings on him,
sure,
we've had a lot of these meetings where people come to us and people who know about this. I don't know anything about anything, right? So I'm the dumbest guy but people come to us and they say, listen, um, shrimp, when we have done a shrimp, um, we have lowered the price. We haven't sold more pounds of shrimp. We only sell it when it's on promotion. So let's say that I have
Right.
4 items.
Right.
You have
Yes.
a headless shrimp, a head-on shrimp, a peeled shrimp, and a tail-on shrimp, just for kicks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Whichever one has a tag that says promo, that's the one that sells that week. So what they do sometimes is that they promote 1 week, one item. That makes the others lag on sales.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The other. So really, we are not working on the consumer's mindset, and we're not changing. But if we do what you just said, if we have to get to, and I always use my wife. If my wife knew good English, I mean, she can understand some of English, right? But if she would understand 100% English, I would sleep in the doghouse more often. I go and say my wife, and I say my wife all the time, and my wife. Really, I mean, if we get to my wife and she starts bringing home shrimp, I went out to the retail store. I brought shrimp tonight. We're having we're having people over. We're gonna do a grill, and I brought shrimp because I said, you know what, I can do a grill, but I can also have a little ceviche going on. Ain't no ceviche. That's got its spice to it. A little drink, and you got a ceviche going on. It works out.
One cheers for that. And let me jump in on that real quick. So, for example, so it has to be affordable, right? So because it like in one way, so I'm saying one is affordability and one is our like promoting the benefits or something. So for example, salmon is still expensive, right? So it's around the same price as shrimp, $7.99, $8.99, $9.99, all that stuff here in the US at least, right? And people still buy salmon no matter what. Like I have it at my house once a week, no matter, and I'm cheap, but I'm feeding my daughter, so I'm like, I don't care.
Because you've been, it's done a great job in promoting itself.
Absolutely, and it's like the health benefits, the brain development, and I'm like, I'm gonna do that, and I don't care if it's $8.99, right? Like it's or $9.99 compared to chicken that it's
you have a steak
$2.99, $3.99. No, something cheap, like cheaper on the value side, because I can, you know. Like a steak, I will have a heart attack every day, right? Like
no, but I'm talking about a steak. I call it a steak. Maybe it's not called steak. It's a filet,
like a London broil or like a London broil
of salmon.
Oh, right? Oh, got it. Yes.
So sorry, my Spanglish didn't work out. So yeah, so you're having a fillet of salmon.
Yeah.
You can either grill it or put it in the pan and maybe garlic and some.
And it's ready to cook, and it's like with like it's really for like exactly $8.99 a pound. 3 people ate delicious. I mean, I became really good at that salmon thing, and but I can do that with shrimp as well, and with chicken, whatever. My point is like there's more benefit on the nutritious side and all that, but shrimp hasn't been gotten there.
You know that, but shrimp also needs to kind of. You are saying that salmon and shrimp are as expensive, right? But on the average shrimp
ballpark, yeah.
But how much water is in salmon versus how much water is in shrimp? Often, right? If you don't buy a head-on shell-on, if you buy peeled product.
Here in the US, it's mostly like most of the stuff that you're gonna eat here is like pure protein, right? They're almost like entirely. There's not a lot of loss of yield. I mean, assuming all this.
So if you
William is going to the hydration part of it, to that like soaking part of it. Are you going there?
So I'm saying like I think one of the big mistakes that at least if you look here in Europe, right, like in the wholesale market, one of the big mistakes of the industry is that we made the product cheap by adding water, right? We add water with phosphates. We pick up 15-20% water, and maybe then what we also do, you don't do that in the US, right? But we put 20% glaze around it, right? Which means that of your final product, probably you have 30% water, right? 70% coating. And this is a way to manipulate the price, right?
Sure.
And I think, yes, it's true. Shrimp has the same potential as salmon, right? But
good point.
We need to work as an industry to also preach best practices, right? And to make sure that like, hey, guys, this is actually really not helping the industry, right?
Yeah.
Adding water. Make shrimp affordable by being efficient in your production, right? And I really believe like this is it sometimes feels like an uphill battle, right? But I know that the majority of the industry is behind it, right? And it's not the producers that are doing it, right? A lot of people tend to point at the producers like they are adding water, they are soaking, glazing, whatever. But it's the buyer in Europe, is the wholesaler that's asking for it, right? And this
Yeah,
really is the mindset
There's
that has
always
to
an
change.
email behind it, right?
yeah.
There's always an
For
Exactly.
email
10
that says,
cents lower or whatever, right?
please
Doesn't
offer
matter.
me this with this amount of water and this amount of what and this amount of
And we have a tolerance of this and a tolerance of that, and then
right. And of course, you tell that to the packer, and the packer says, if I don't do that, it you wanna
Oh, that's a full on like 3 hour conversation with like two more bottles of anything.
I mean, I don't think we need to edit out anything yet. I mean, I don't think we screwed up the business yet. Podcast is looking cool. Do you want to edit something out?
no, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
Good, very good.
No,
Good.
but chicken does the same though.
You know what's funny? We had I was once involved in organizing the EU Bangladesh shrimp dialogues because in Europe, you know, like the majority of the black tiger shrimp in the Netherlands and Belgium and Germany, it comes from Bangladesh. It's mainly a PD product, right? It's a peeled product, and it's heavily glazed and heavily soaked, right? And there's often manipulation, right? There's often a tolerance here and a tolerance there. So it's really not like I wouldn't buy it, right? I would go for a head on Shalom Black Tiger and not for that peeled product, right? I would peel it myself because I don't need the water. Keep the water, please, right? But anyway, at the end of the conference, because everyone agreed, right? Hey, shit, what we are doing is actually bad for ourselves, right? Because we are
Yeah.
not helping ourselves in positioning ourselves as this almost natural beauty. So you know what the slogan at the end of this conference was? More shrimp, less ice, and no more cheating on the size. You know, and it's sad, right? It's sad, but it's true, right?
But then again, we're talking to seafood people,
Right,
right? We're talking to
exactly.
people
Exactly.
who know what you mean when you say that. If I tell
Consumers
my
don't
wife,
know, don't care.
less
They want to
ice,
buy cheaper. Yeah.
talk to my wife and tell her less ice, she's gonna think I'm talking about the scotch. She's like, "Are you gonna stop drinking ice with scotch?" I mean, that's what she's gonna ask me because she doesn't know how
Yeah,
much we glaze
yeah,
it. Yes,
yeah.
8 to 12% protective glaze and whatnot. And but so and I think when it comes down to it, I think you said it. Um, when you go to buy shrimp for you, what do you buy? You have head on, you have peeled products, you have value added cooked, and you have all of the nicer looking, super fancy breaded whatever. What do you buy? Willem, what do you buy?
If I have time to cook, right, I buy my heads on shell and I cook myself. You know, if I'm in a hurry, I'll buy a nice bag of untreated peeled shrimp that you can throw in the pan without an effort, right?
Without too much work. Correct. And how
Exactly.
about you, Angel?
And going to that, you pay the premium for that, right? Like that's the thing, because we know that, right? So that we know those and we know those details and we'll pay an extra dollar or an extra $2 or €2. I'm very lazy, so
Your head on shell easy peel.
I buy peeled. Yeah, I buy peeled. And it's very difficult to come up with like to find the head on Shalong here
You've
in
been
the
to
US.
Ecuador how
It's
many times, man?
Come
They will not
on.
teach you anything. How many times have you been to Ecuador? Every year, man. I've seen you. We do the conference together. Come on, man.
that's what's available here in New York. Like
No, no.
I go to Whole Foods and then
Available. You come
I
to the
get the
store.
real nice one, but
Yeah.
then I'm paying $12, $13, $13.99 the pound, and
Okay, so
and
if you go
nobody's gonna care when I serve it. I will care, but nobody in my family goes like whatever. It's just like
yeah, the family won't actually know the difference. And that's another thing that we actually have to work on, right? Is there is a huge difference between and that's why the question came. I asked, what
yes,
do you buy when you go knowing that you're a shrimp guy, right? And when Willem said, I buy head on, I myself buy head on. So my answer is I buy head on. If I run into a head on product, I know that head on product has not been soaked, has not been treated, hasn't been hydrated, it hasn't been touched. It's as fresh as a product as you can get it.
yep,
So
yep.
the taste of that product is entirely different. I
Absolutely.
I always compare.
I go to Chinatown, Chinatown in New York. They buy the head on Shalon, and you can
Absolutely.
split it out. They know how to do that, and I was like, this is the
Because
only difference.
they know shrimp.
Yeah,
right?
me
Shrimp
too.
with heads, a head on shrimp, when you take it home and you cook it, you can put it on the grill and then peel it. And once you peel that shrimp, and trust me, that will taste like lobster, but it costs like shrimp, but
Yeah.
it tastes like lobster. Real
Yeah.
shrimp without the treatments and everything. Now, that's a long way from where we are. There's a lot of education that has to go into it. What you said, Willem, the industry has been asking for a lower price point to get to more consumer homes because we were getting to consumer homes based on the price point. I think the worlds are changing. I think that we're in a point where um, we can we can say that people are looking for greener products, people are looking for nicer products, and people are willing to go the extra step, even if it is a little bit more money, right? And say, I want a healthier, greener. Guys, I think that I mean we could. I'm so
We could
happy we did
continue
this.
for another 1.5, right? The bottle is not yet finished.
I'm I did my job, man. I don't know if you can see the bottle. I did I did 1/3. I did that 777 million out of what's the total million pounds? You didn't do your job, Angel. You're gonna get a bad grade. But I did my job. 1/3 of the bottle. That was my
Stuck to
promise.
my boss, stuck to my wife.
Yeah. No, that was my promise coming in. I said, listen, we're gonna have fun and we're gonna have a drink. Um, we're gonna do a shrimp cast. To everyone out there, I just want to say, I really just want to say goodbye. Thank you for listening to anybody who comes in and listens. We are going to continue to do this. I think that these conversations are not only good. We know that we love these conversations. This is the reason why we did this is because this is what our getting together looks like. We get together every seafood conference once in I don't know, every 3 months or 4 months where we happen to meet in either Boston or Ecuador or Utrecht in the Global Shrimp Forum or
Yeah.
Barcelona or any of the seafood shows. We get together and we look at each other and we start talking. And if we have one drink, then this all blows up, right? So
We should have this in Utrecht.
I just want to thank you guys for joining me on this venture. I think it's going to be I think at the end it's going to be educational for anybody who wants to be a part of the shrimp business. We we we've made jokes, we've had fun, but and we're drinking our scotch, but it's going to be educational. We have good data, good info. I respect both of you as top shrimp guys in the world. Um, so I'm really glad that you accepted. So thank you very much.
Well,
And
Camille, thanks for the invitation, man. It's a great idea, and I enjoyed tonight, and surely looking forward to the next time. And maybe it's cool to actually also, like people know where to find us. Yeah, most people. So if people have ideas what we should talk about, because otherwise we speak for hours anyway. But if you want to give direction, I think it's welcome
Yeah.
as well, right? Like it's cool also to be challenged on what people would like to hear about, right?
what you want us to talk about. I mean, leave us your comments. We're waiting to hear your comments. We want to tackle as many subjects as
I have to
possible.
say thank you too before you do that. Thank you, Gabriel, for inviting me too. And cheers to
Man,
that.
salud, salud. Hey,
Salute.
I see you have a brand new
Close.
mezcal there, and I see William's not done with this. I don't know what I've done.
It's the third one, but who's counting, huh?
I've been drinking. I think you guys were talking too much.
Um,
But no,
yeah, I think you're the right person to lead this with and Willem. Of course, you're grabbing the gurus like you got you two guys and with David and the rest of the people in the industry. It's
I don't think we said David Castro all night long, but David
Willem
Castro,
did. Willem
it,
did.
I
you did?
did. I mentioned him. I
Willem did.
mentioned
Yeah,
him.
Okay,
Willem.
yeah,
For
no,
sure.
and I think we have to. I mean, we were talking about the Global Shrimp Council, David Castro, and he came to me with the idea. It was David's. That I mean, we were drinking. I'm always drinking, not always, but you end your work day and then somehow you have a drink,
It
right?
happens. It
So
happened.
somehow you have a drink. I
Oh,
don't look for the
what
drink.
is this? Oh no!
It looks for me. It's so he comes up to me and says, "You know what? We got to do this, and you're the guy." I said, I have enough on my plate." He said, "No, no, you're the guy. We can put this together. We'll work it out together." And we started talking about this maybe 5 years ago over drinks. And Boston of last year, this Boston is 2024, Boston of last year, he said, came to me and said, "Do you have 5 minutes? Let's go to the NFI and sit down with them and tell them that we have this idea." And that's when we went to the NFI for the first time. Boston 2023. And right after that, we met Willem. We called Willem and we said, Willem, we had already seen Willem the previous year on 2022. And we told Willem, if we're able to pull this off and get a serious proposal going, would you consider hosting this in the Global Shrimp Forum? And he said, I like Willem because he's straightforward.
He'll never say you right away yes. He's like,
no, Willem,
give me a second.
I think I'm learning to understand that Willem's not angry at me every time he calls me, right? Because it almost looks like that because I'm Ecuadorian. So for us, 4:00 doesn't mean 4:00. It kind of means 4:05-ish. And right, it means if you're around there at 4, it works, right? So I'm trying to understand, and that's where I was saying cultures and all of that. But we went to Willem, and Willem told us, if you guys come to us with a serious proposal, we'll give you the room. And he gave us the room, and that's how it all got started. So thank you, Willem. And not only that, he gave us the room. They've been super, super important, and they sponsored a lot of our meetings. We have meetings where we presented the board, sponsored by the Global Shrimp Forum. These guys are really just helping us out in the development path. So thank you, Willem, and thank you to all of your team at Global Shrimp Forum. Angel, thank you so much, man. I mean, you're the numbers guy. You gave us today something that I think everybody wants to know. I mean, everybody, that's 777 million pounds. Like, holy crap, that's what's in inventory in the States.
Just open a can of worms. Thank you.
The hate email is coming your way, man. You got it.
I have a very thick skin. I have.
No, don't worry.
Psoriasis. Great.
So guys, again, thank you, and I think we call it a podcast, or we call it a shrimpcast, right?
Amazing.
Thank you,
guys.
I love the logo, by the way.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you. This first episode of the Shrimpcast is brought to you by Gila Shrimp and Shrimp Insights.